She gets a VHS tape in the mail. Now, we all know, if we've watched scary movies, this is never a good thing. Obviously, the character didn't catch on soon enough. Bad stuff happens. Jory, stop being so stupid. Jory, come on. Come on, I think you know. Stop denying it to yourself who it is. Today, we're going to talk about a horror book that had an awesome premise that basically just reeled me right in. And that book is The October Film Haunt by Michael Wehunt. There was this group that was super into horror movies, and they were called the October Film Haunt. And what they would do is they would go and they would camp out at the different locations where scary movies had been filmed. At, well, some of their most favorite scary movies. This one time, they go and stay at this place where the film for Proof of Demons was filmed, and it's this very cult following film that was rumored to be a documentary, and instead of just a fictional film where there's these strange creatures that seem to be summoned through this archway called the Pine Arch Creature. And there is this floating hole where you can see into hell, supposedly. You'll see like an eyeball in there and whatnot. And some claim it's real. And there's all kinds of stuff on the internet, blah, blah, blah. So they go and they stay there. Not a ton of stuff happens. Jory, who is our main character, she was 27 at the time. Now she's 38. She's moved on from all that. Hasn't been part of that in the last 10 years because of what happened after they stayed there and after she wrote a blog post about it. And for some reason, when she decided to write this post, she seemed to have embellished a few things. And this made the people who read it kind of believe things that may not have actually happened. And belief is a strong thing, and it may bring things into existence. You know, kind of like a tulpa or an egregore. After they stay there, there ends up being this girl who goes there with her friends, and she ends up dying. While they didn't directly have anything to do with it, what Jory wrote heavily influenced that girl dying. And people were very quick to point fingers and blame her, and that kind of destroyed the whole October Film Haunt group, and they shut it down, and it was never more. And then one of their friends who had been involved in it, it was Colin, Beth, and Jory. And Colin, after all that happened, maybe a year later, he died of a drug overdose. And then Beth is still around, but she has a lot of anger and animosity towards Jory. And so, 10 years later, Jory's moved away. This happened in North Carolina. She's now in Vermont with her son Oliver. And she gets a VHS tape in the mail. Now, we all know, if we've watched scary movies, this is never a good thing. She opens it, and then she's like, oh, do I even still have a VHS player? So she goes, and she finds the VHS player, and it says on it, funeral watching. And she's like, oh, did someone send me a scary movie, you know? And, like, starts to get, like, the tingles, like, oh, my goodness, you know, what is this? Because she hasn't watched any, like, horror movies or even, like, done anything to do with any of that. She just clean cut out of her life and didn't want to think about it anymore. And at that time too, they were starting to get like some recognition and were pretty big, and then all that came crashing down. She decides to watch this video, and she does, and she notices it's scenes from the movie Proof of Demons. They seem to be a longer version of this. After watching it a few times, she realizes it's slightly different, and it's very possible that it might just have been filmed somewhere nearby where she is. This happens, and it seems maybe someone wants to make Jory their final girl. And then you have like the backstory of the film, like what the film was all about. And there's this mysterious director, Helene Enriquez. Her fans are like these crazy, rabid, psychotic people called the Rickies. And maybe they're coming after Jory. A lot of people blame her for that Hannah girl's death. Oh, and also Hannah had been wearing one of their t-shirts when she died too, so that didn't help things. She was wearing an October Film Haunt t-shirt, so that objectively made things worse. It's a crazy book. It's a crazy story. I know it seems to be like mixed reviews on this, and I think that's because the ending is a little open. The ending leaves things not neatly sealed up in a package. Me personally, I like that. In a book, it leaves my imagination to run wild, but I know not everyone likes that. So if you are not a fan of books that have somewhat open endings, then I probably wouldn't recommend this. But otherwise, I thought it was pretty great. Although I did know who the mysterious Helene Enriquez was pretty early on, because there's like a hint that if you catch it and you've read enough horror books, you'll know. Obviously, the character didn't catch on soon enough. Bad stuff happens. I liked the writing. I thought the pacing was good. It's freaking weird. You get into some of the occult stuff and why the director actually made this film. Like, she wanted to bring an entity into being through this. So you're getting some to that with like her occult beliefs and some of the stuff that she was dabbling in, and then like the original people who were in her movie, like the guy who made the concept art for the creature that was in the movie, and then you have the guy who was like the cult leader in the movie. In the new VHS that Jory gets, stuff is slightly different, and like in this too, like instead of like the one creature at the end that comes through the arch, there's two now, and that shouldn't have been. And then like the people in these films too, they'd wear sheets over themselves that used to be blue, but when they start appearing in her neighborhood and she starts seeing them, because these people start to come around, they're wearing like a green colored sheets and they have these weird wooden crowns and whatnot. How does it all turn out? Well, that's something for you to find out by reading the book. I had the pleasant surprise of when I was reading it, Mother Horror is mentioned. Mother Horror is one of my favorite people in the horror community. She has so many great horror book recommendations. If you don't know who she is, I will link her Instagram down below. If you've heard of the Nightworms book boxes, that's her thing. She's behind that as well. And like, she does so many amazing stuff. She is a bright, beautiful star in our horror world. So it was cool that she was mentioned in there. If you like weird books, if you like horror with kind of open endings and stuff that's like out there, there is definitely quite a bit of action. I don't feel like it ever really lulled. Like I said, I did know who the director was pretty early on because it seemed kind of obvious, but maybe you won't know. And that didn't ruin anything for me. Like, you're just like, Jory, stop being so stupid. Jory, come on. I think you know. Stop denying it to yourself who it is. But anyways, I digress. If any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.